All right, so here we are at Cabana Bay, and we are here with it's Dave and Brian. Maybe a different Brian, but
Right.
and do you want to, if for those if you somehow watch the channel and don't know who you are, start with introductions.
I'm Brandi. If you have ever been in the live chat, you probably know me because I'm Phenomenal Brandi, the mod.
Fear the Wrench,
I'm her husband.
also named Brian. So I was like, well, we always have to have at least one Brian representing. Sorry, the other Brian can't be here. Unfortunately, it didn't work out with his work schedule and my work schedule and all that stuff. But you got to see him for the rest of the live show here. So you guys just went through Hornets, did Unmasking the Horror, Scare Actor, all that awesome stuff. So want to dive into all that. So how many times have you been to Hornets?
This is the third year that we've done Horror Nights. So not super long veterans, but we try to come and we try to go really hard when we do come. So we haven't missed anything in 3 years. So.
And I think you said that you've been here maybe by yourself.
Yeah. The first year I did it by myself. I did all 10 houses and both shows in one night.
Sweet. So you have your house ranking.
I do. I have both what we thought our house ranking was going to be, and now that the event is over, as well as both sets of Behind the Screams. Kind of Behind the Screams switched it up a little bit for us in a couple of places, so we have both. So I'm going to go on my notes here if that's cool. Do you want to talk about like what our anticipated versus what our final rankings were? First, we're overgrown 90s rockers kids, so we're really big Rob Zombie fans. So House of 1,000 Corpses we were super excited when that got announced as an IP. Yeah. We were additionally excited when Hellbilly Deluxe got announced as a Scare Zone IP. So that for us coming into the event this year was definitely the number one thing that we were looking forward to, and it really delivered for sure.
I remember how excited I was for you when I saw the Dracula first appearing. Like, yeah. I know someone was excited more than I am. Yeah. So the crazy thing about the House of the Thousand Corpses is because it's in the back of the park, it starts out at like a walk-on. And I'm like, wow, you guys have to go back. It's easily a house of the year. Mine's still Ghostbusters, but it's second favorite is House. And for it to be a walk-on for so long of the night, it's just kind of crazy. So, what do you have a separate list for yourself?
No, we kind of did our list together.
Yeah, we
all
made
right.
a combined list.
Yeah. All right. So, also, in case you haven't already caught on to this, we're just gonna plow through everything. So, here's your one spoiler alert. So, sorry. So let's start with what you anticipated.
Okay, so like I say, House of 1,000 Corpses for sure was our number one going in. After that, probably Ghostbusters. With this being the 35th anniversary of Ghostbusters, we were really fortunate in the small town where we live that they did a 35th anniversary showing for Ghostbusters. So we just recently saw it again in the theater. It was really big for us when we were kids. I played Ghostbusters like in my neighborhood a lot with the neighborhood guys and stuff. So it was definitely one that we were really looking forward to.
And like I've said before, it definitely doesn't disappoint. The very first room you walk into that house is like, okay, this is already awesome. So that was your, was that the first or second?
That was our number 2 on our anticipation list. But I will say that we had one really good run of Ghostbusters, and we had one really bad run of Ghostbusters where we missed a lot of scares. Oh. So I think in that case, it dropped down just because of that, just because of that factor. We had one really good run and one really bad run, and Ghostbusters wait time is no joke. It starts high and it stays high the whole time, so we were only able to get 2 runs in on Ghostbusters. When we did Behind the Screams for Ghostbusters, though, that was outstanding. You got a lot of additional details and really good photo ops with Janine's office and the Zool throne and some really cool stuff there. So,
did you get to see, I believe, one of the ghost traps is either it might have been a screen use prop, or it was
it's a proton pack. There's a screen use proton pack, and yeah, they pointed that out, and it's actually where they were filming the new movie, the Ghostbusters 2020 movie that's coming out. That is a proton pack that's used in the 2020 movie.
Nice.
So
Yeah.
it was really cool.
Okay, I heard something about it. I thought for some reason it was a ghost trap, but a proton pack.
Yeah, they pointed it out. Our tour guide today was awesome.
And I noticed that I know that the ones that weren't screen used, they spent a lot of time making sure it was really, really accurate.
Oh yeah, the level of detail that's in that house, like nothing was missed. You can tell it's a lot of fan service, so there's a lot of stuff in there. But even when they did the devil dogs and things, like they turned one's horns up to be the Zool one, and there's just a lot of good details as you walk through. So,
and like I've said before, one of the cool things about that house is the rooftop scene, which was part of a show right there where Race to New York is right now. It was the Spooktacular. It was the first. It opened with the park, so it was really cool to see that back in the park. And it probably wasn't possible, but I really hoped or wished that the opening for that house could have been going through the firehouse facade. That would have been the perfect. That would have been the perfect greeter. But I'm sure there are some safety concerns or something. But that would have been amazing.
One thing I loved in Ghostbusters that I think maybe if you only hit it one time or hit it really quickly, you may not realize is the Janine in there is not on an auto trigger. Yeah. She's actually live mic'd and will interact with you. Like if you yell stuff at Janine, she will talk back with you. And that's a really nice touch because a lot of times the actors are just on a loop and she's not. She's excellent. Great scare actor.
Yeah, I noticed that the first walkthrough, but it took me a little bit. Or maybe even the second one. Someone pointed it out. I was like, and then when I was going through the second time, I was like, oh, wow, I wasn't expecting it at all. Mostly, I think it's because it was so well cast. It sounds like Annie Potts to the point where, like, this couldn't be to some actor, but it is.
It is extremely well cast. The Zool throne, Sigourney Weaver, looks just like Sigourney Weaver. The Vinkman is, like, perfect. So I really think overall in all of the houses this year, this is probably the best casting that Hornets has ever put together. The Stranger Things kids are perfect. We'll talk about Us in a minute, but the one girl, like that could be Lupita Nyong'o's like sister. She looks so much like her. The casting this year is excellent.
Sadly, there's one person they didn't cast.
Maybe next year, Dave.
Yeah.
Maybe next year.
Yeah.
You don't look like a Stranger Things kid or Lupita Nyong'o, so maybe that was not a good fit.
I don't know. I think I could have been the key master.
But not the gatekeeper, so.
We'll see.
Okay, so our next anticipated one, Brian has his shirt on, Us. We saw Us in the theater this year and walked out of the thing and immediately said, oh my God, what if they make this a house? Yeah. The flow of the movie, like we could just imagine it in our heads, like you go through the mirror maze, you go through the house, you go through the tunnels, and everything that we wanted it to be, it absolutely was. There are probably a couple slower spots in that house that I think maybe they could have oomped up a little bit. The sets, though, look dead on. The Vision Quest facade is, like, perfect. The house that's the rich white people's house is, like, is perfect set. So we were really, really excited to hear that one was coming. I'm a big horror fan, obviously, because I'm here for Horror Nights, and not a lot of stuff shakes me, and I've actually had 2 Us-related nightmares in, like, the past 6 months. So one of them also involved my mother-in-law, though, so it was, yeah, it was double scary. But we were really looking forward to that house also. Okay, next on our anticipation list, everybody's here for Stranger Things. Got to be pumped for Stranger Things. right. Was a little bit hesitant when we heard it was going to be 2 and 3 together because we were afraid it was going to be like just like 2 or 3 scenes of 2 or 2 or 3 scenes of 3, but they really split it in a good, like, even way. So I think that they pretty well delivered here, but we were excited to see Stranger Things come back, and I think we may see it again in the future. I don't know. I know they just announced Stranger Things 4, so we'll see where the property goes. But I mean, if you want Stranger Things merch or anything Stranger Things, this is where you got to go. So
I'm surprised that they didn't milk it more and like have 1 season per year and just have it keep going like they did Walking Dead forever. But luckily they didn't. I thought they were going to have more of what was it? I already forgot what they did last time. But they thankfully they haven't run anything like they did Walking Dead for 5 years again. So
Purge came close. Yeah.
I mean, the Scare Zone and the House in the same year.
Right. I think Walking Dead is a strong IP, but I don't think Walking Dead is as relevant anymore. So when it was time for Walking Dead to go, it was time. It was time. And we're big Walking Dead fans, so that's coming from, like, I don't hate on Walking Dead. I love Walking Dead, but like it was time.
Yeah, definitely 5 years is enough. One of the things I like about Halloween Horror Nights is it doesn't usually repeat. But man, when it first came, it brought the crowds like crazy.
We have been to Universal Hollywood, and we have done the year-round Walking Dead that they have there. So that's kind of an interesting experience. I would love to see a year-round house come to Orlando. I think that would be a really great addition to the park. I think Stranger Things would be a good fit for that, but really the best fit this year would be Ghostbusters. If Ghostbusters would stay as a year-round house, like, that would be awesome for sure. Okay, so next after Stranger Things, cult classic, Killer Clowns. Got to go with the clowns. Yep. I mean, the Scare Zone last year just got people so hype. Yeah. I mean, how do you not love these clowns? How do you not love Shorty? And I mean, it's such a fun property to really include, and I love the fact that the directors were really in favor of it, so they kind of let the creative team just like go. So we knew how well done the Scare Zone was last year, so that made us really excited for Killer Clowns. So,
and I like the idea of having a little bit of a photo op, and not really Scare Zone, but the photo op in front of the house.
Right, with the ice cream truck. That's a really nice touch. Yeah, that's really cool. When we did Scare Actor Dining, too, Shorty is one of the main walk-around characters for Scare Actor Dining. So, yeah, you get Shorty a bunch in Halloween Horror Nights this year. If you're looking for clowns or hating and running away from scary clowns, this is a good time. So, I will tell you, Killer Clowns, like, we have intentionally watched through several times as well. And when we heard Brian 1 was going to be Scare Actor for Killer Clowns, that definitely bumped it up the list because we always like to see our friends. So after Killer Clowns 2, got to be Yeti. Really, really excited for Yeti. Loved Slaughter Cinema last year. Definitely in my top 3 houses from last year. And I thought it was so cool that they took that and took a spin-off of it. I really feel like Yeti is like kind of a wide property, even though we're from the country, so that's a Sasquatch. That's not really a Yeti. That's a Squatch. Yeah. And I liked how it's the cold house. So you get the snow effects, and it's absolutely frigid in there. When we were there for Behind the Screams, we were in that house like 45 minutes, and we all woke, like, I couldn't feel my toes by the time we walked out of there. It was super, super cold. So we were super excited for Yeti when it came out. After that, Universal Monsters, classics. Yeah. Hard to not be excited about those, just the properties that brought Universal into the forefront to begin with, even back in the 30s and 40s. Yeah. And there's just so much in that house that you think it's going to be like, oh, like, you won't understand it, or like the mishmash of it, because it has everybody. It has Frankenstein. It has Phantom of the Opera. It has Creature from Black Lagoon. It has Dracula. It has, I mean, you think of a Universal monster and it's in that house, I promise. Maybe the Invisible Man? I don't know. That's what they said. So,
I heard they couldn't cast him because everyone who came in, they couldn't see him.
It's tough. I will tell you that we usually really do look forward to the non-IP houses, to the original houses, but it's hard. I feel like it's harder to kind of get hype for them because you don't know what to expect. So at our pre-event hype list, we rank them at the bottom. Yeti being the highest just because we were excited with the Slaughter Cinema connection, but we ranked Graveyard Games, Depths of Fear, and then Nightingales at the bottom. Us too, to a certain extent. I will say that Graveyard Games is a very complex house. And when we went through Graveyard Games the first time, we didn't necessarily understand all of it. But then when we went on our Behind the Screams tour and we got individual walkthroughs of all of the rooms and we learned how to do the Facebook Messenger thing, which if you're coming to the event, I highly recommend you send a Facebook message to the HHN Facebook and you just say Graveyard Games or start here, or like you can type ABCD in there, and it will lead you on a choose your own adventure through the story of Graveyard Games. And it is a multi-layered backstory of the history of the graveyard and who the teenagers are and what the glowing mother is. And there's so much going on there that it's very easy to not get all of it. You can blast through that house and go, oh, well, that was really creepy, but it was in a graveyard, but really it's got a very intricate backstory that I think a lot of people are missing. And then Nightingales and Depths of Fear. I think probably Nightingales maybe a little bit more anticipatory just because it was the prequel house to Nightingale's Blood Prey. And then Depths of Fear was like, oh, there's going to be fish. So...
Look, a superstar.
Right. The Squidward hitting the dab kind of a thing. So that was our anticipation list.
I liked Depths of Fear after we went through the walkthrough today. I think I liked it a little more because I learned a little more about how long they've been wanting to do an underwater house.
Right.
Yeah, I think that really made the house a little bit more interesting for me.
We got to hear the backstory of the dog. Can we talk about the dog?
I don't know, guys. They're not going to answer. Okay.
So we got to hear more about the backstory of the dog, which at first, when the Twitter blow up of reaction about the dog was, I was like, what's the big deal? They killed a cat and strange. There's 20 million dead horses in front of Nightingales. There's a lot. How can you come and be upset about the dead dog, but they're scalping a guy in House of a Thousand Corpses and nobody was upset about that? So, but then
I thought that was a little excessive.
it's fun though, and a little off the top. But when we heard the backstory of the dog and that it's actually the dog's real name is Woody, but the dog in the house's name is Helix, but it's a real dog. It's based on an actual person from the creative teams. It's a family pet, and there's pictures of the dog all throughout the thing, but when you're walking through it at night, it's dark and you can't tell that the photos are the guy loving the dog so the more we heard about the dog, now I kind of understand why people are upset about the dog, because the dog is really sad.
And that's the cool thing about behind this, Unmasking the Horror, is that they put details in the house specifically that they know you're not going to be able to see. Like when we went through the 25 Years of Fear, there were some props in the monster's house that even if it was bright enough, you wouldn't have the right angle to see it, and you can only see it on the Unmasking the Horror tour.
We saw a hidden sign from Slaughter Cinema. One of the sorority letter signs is hidden in Baby's bedroom, and you can't see it unless you're on the tour. So cool stuff like that. Okay, so here's our official ranking. Already talked about it. House of the Year, House of Thousand Corpses. Yeah. It's got to be. It's outstanding house. It's perfectly cast. The sets are amazing. There's a lot of good throwbacks to Creature from the Black Lagoon, which if you are a big Rob Zombie fan, you know that he is a big fan of Creature from the Black Lagoon. And one of the reasons that he pushed, House of a Thousand Corpses, for those of you who don't know, is actually based on a house at Universal Hollywood, which then became a movie, which now became a house. So when they were filming House of a Thousand Corpses on the Universal lot, he intentionally hid Creature from the Black Lagoon stuff in the movie sets because Rob Zombie wants to direct Creature from the Black Lagoon's return. He wants to direct the remake of Creature from the Black Lagoon. So they hid those same things in the house. So there's a Creature from the Black Lagoon mask in the gas station scene. There's a big poster of Creature from the Black Lagoon in Baby's bedroom. So that kind of level of detail, along with absolutely perfect casting, absolutely perfect sets, basically no wait times, especially if you hit it at the beginning or the end of the night. It's not just the best house that's ever been in that spot. It may be one of the best houses of all time.
Like I said, it's crazy to think that in the beginning, like not even at the rope drop at 6:30, even like an hour into the event, I've gone back there and it's been a walk on. I walked right through and walk it again. Like how this is not the kind of wait time that you should have for a house that is that amazing. Oh, and the other thing I was trying to think of that they repeated only twice was American Horror Story. I thought they were going to keep doing that to death like they did Walking Dead, but they only did it 2 years and then they're like, we're done.
Yeah, that's weird to me because, I mean, American Horror Story is still a huge TV hit, and they're doing the 80s season of American Horror Story right now, which honestly would tie really good in with the theme of the year, I guess. I know there's no icon, but it's like loosely 80s based, so yeah, I'm kind of surprised that American Horror Story didn't come back. Now that you say that, actually, I feel like it could.
Well, you know, it might come up, at least a reference, it might come up next year in 30. We'll see.
Oh, true. Yeah, they're going to go all out for 30, so, okay. I will say that Ghostbusters fans are going to be mad, and this is unpopular opinion time. Unpopular opinion time. Second house for us, Stranger Things. I know a lot of people hating on it, but honestly, like I said, I know I've said the casting 100 times, but Max in there is absolutely perfect. The Erica at the end, like that could be the actress. They look so much alike. And it's the largest puppet. The Mind Flayer in the Battlestar Court Mall scene is the largest puppet they've ever built. It's 15 feet high. It takes 3 men to operate the thing. And it's every scene that you want. It's 11 closing the gate. It's the bus scene from season 2. I mean, every moment that you want to see from the show, you are seeing. I'm a big Stranger Things fan. Binge watched the 3rd season in like 18 hours. So I was really looking forward to it. But then when it kind of started getting bad reviews, I was like kind of meh on it. But honestly, guys, I mean, I think it's great. I think Stranger Things is good. And 210 plus minutes sometimes can be a heck of a wait time for stuff. But I mean, do stay and scream. That's the best advice I have to try to get Stranger Things done.
Although in the past, those have not been unusual for at least one house to get that. So overall, it's not that bad, the wait times this year.
I think that the fact that they did 2 and 3 together also, like I say, I was afraid that it was going to be like just a little bit of 2 or maybe like mostly 2 and then just a little bit of 3, considering the house construction and the filming of the show were kind of done concurrently, because the house construction here starts like April, May, March, like it's like in the springtime, and they were not even done shooting the show yet. So that is mind-boggling to me to think that they built all of those sets at the same time that the sets were like actually being used and filmed. So I think that's, I mean, you can't come to Horror Nights right now and not do Stranger Things. Like that's the thing. Haha, it's the Stranger Thing.
Well, it is. They start on certain houses at certain times, so they don't start on all of them at the same time. So they might have waited for certain details of that house. I don't know, but
okay. Next, final ranking, and this guy really moved up for us, is Universal Monsters. Loved Universal Monsters. There are a couple scares in there, and I'm not don't say that I condone this, but if you don't get them, maybe hold back a minute and make sure that you get them. Wolfman scare, especially, that scare actor he's working his tail off every night, and it is such a good scare. I don't know what cast it is, if it's A cast or if it's B cast, but one of the Quasimodos actually rappels down out of the bell tower, and that's such a cool effect.
I've gone through the house 2 other times. It was the 3rd time going through the house before I saw it the first time. I was like, whoa, I wouldn't have missed that. So that's must not be every night.
I think only when the tour guide told us only one of the scare actors is rope trained, is like can actually harness and do it. So if you're on the B cast, then you don't see it. And now correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the harness trained scare actors, they do not have their set times are different. They have to go for a shorter amount of time.
I'm not sure, but it may make sense.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think that Wolfman could hold out 45 minutes. That would absolutely 20 minutes. Yeah, I think that sounds like what they said.
Well, that's kind of reminds me of the one house that they had Asylum in Wonderland, where they had scare actors constantly jumping on a trampoline. I'm like, wow, I've been watching them for like 30 seconds. I'm already tired just watching them. So that's pretty crazy. So it's probably something like that. I don't know if it's as much. Well, it might be as physically demanding as jumping up and down on a rope. But the other thing I noticed about that, I feel like it's the same queue layout, but it doesn't seem as crazy long of a walk to Monsters as it was for Seeds of Extinction, even though it's the same house.
Yeah, no, it's in that same parade building as Seeds of Extinction was. I don't know. It's pretty far. It's pretty far back there, but I think
they took a different route.
Yeah, I think they reworked the route a little bit. It's not as bad, especially for me because I only went to Seeds of Extinction the first time on preview night when there wasn't a line, and when you walk a little bit, you stop. You walk a little, it's not so bad. But when you walk constantly full speed all the way through the whole queue, it's just like, that's how it became Seeds of Exhaustion.
We still call it Seeds of Exhaustion. That's exactly what I call it at home. Yeah, Universal Monsters it's a must-do house for sure. I love the fact that they have incorporated that IP into a lot of the merch this year. Gives me a lot of high hopes for Epic Universe. Maybe we're going to get that Monsters Land that is rumored. I don't know, maybe not, but I think this is a good lead-in for that. I mean, it's outstanding, and boy, that one at the end, it gets you. That I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but that one at the end, he'll get you.
I like how they have the monsters painted on the building. The monsters painted on the building, but then they have the projector, which like interacts with it and changes the paintings that are on there because it's black and white, which is pretty cool.
We thought it was painted too. It's a sticker. Oh. That's what they told us. And when I touched it. I touched it last night and rubbed it, and you can tell on the end of it that it's a vinyl sticker. Yeah. But what are they going to do with it when they peel it off? They're going to throw it away. That would be cool to have the mural up there, like, because, I mean, you can't see the parade building anyway during the daytime, so it'd be cool if they just left it. But no, it's a decal. It's going to come down.
We were kind of hoping to get it for our house.
Yeah. I don't.
Well, get in line.
Right. Maybe they'll sell that in the prop shop, just pieces of the vinyl decal. You can have the Wolfman's leg or something off of there, so who knows. Okay, so yes, we're ranking this 4th. Yes, people are probably going to be mad, but Ghostbusters.
Remember, they're ranking the house, not the movie.
Right. And I think for us, it's because we didn't have the best runs through Ghostbusters. Like I say, we had one really great run and one really, like, badly timed run where we didn't catch not that there's a huge amount of scares in Ghostbusters to begin with, but we missed several things, and like the timing felt weird to us, and I felt like that they were having a hard time like kind of getting in the groove of it. So, not to say those characters aren't amazing, they're absolutely fabulous. Janine, I love you for life, absolutely amazing, but I think that is what put it further down on our list for us.
The red button on Janine's desk is not a GAT. Don't press it.
Oh, you should tell them what a GAT is, because they probably don't know what GAT stands for.
Guest activated trigger.
Yeah.
The little buttons that they leave for you throughout the houses.
Like you see in Killer Clowns.
Yes, those are actual GATs. You can press those. Do not press buttons if you don't. I mean, we try to press buttons because we know that sometimes you can get fun extras if you press them. Press the buttons in Killer Clowns. Do not press the buttons in Ghostbusters. You will get yelled at by the attendant.
Yeah, if you press that button, you'll get an extra, but it won't be a fun one.
Right. It's a big red button though on her desk. It looks like it should be a GAT, and it's not. So yeah, I definitely can see if you were a huge Ghostbusters fan, like if that was your number one favorite movie of all time, which I know for a lot of people it is, that you would rank that number one. But we just didn't have that great of a run through Ghostbusters. So
I must have gotten lucky. I went through 3 times and I've didn't have a bad run through. But
we were only able to hit it twice because Ghostbusters is one that you've either got to do Stay and Scream or one like that because very popular IP. It's gonna have a line.
Well, that's an advantage of being working there, is that I was able to go on team member preview, and it was a 5-minute walk on at the end.
Killer Clowns for us didn't go up, didn't go down. I mean, Killer Clowns for if you were a first timer at HHN and you were like hesitant about scary stuff, you should start with Killer Clowns because one, you're gonna have fun. It is a fun house. We hit Killer Clowns 3 times. We hit Brian one set twice and then B cast once. So we saw both casts of Killer Clowns, which is what we like to do. We like to try to time it to where we can see both casts of stuff because sometimes you see different characters. Yeah. Like with Stranger Things, sometimes you have certain kids in the house for A cast and it's different kids for B cast. So
especially later in the run, because sometimes scare actors start and they don't finish.
But I mean, how do you not love the clowns? How do you not love them? And the Clownzillas are like overwhelmingly awesome.
And the guest activated triggers are pretty cool too.
They are. The first set don't get you, but that second set will get you. I will say that not only do I like to pick my favorite scare actor from the year, again, I love you, Janine. My favorite house attendant from the year is the Gat house attendant that's in Killer Clowns. He, even if you wouldn't hit the thing, as people would walk by, he would hit the button behind them still to get them. Like, dude, you're doing your job awesomely. Like, way to go. Best house attendant for sure, Killer Clowns.
Well, I only get to be a house attendant twice, and during the Ash vs. Evil Dead, unfortunately, I was out in the line most of the time, but my favorite house to be attendant was the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. That kind of spoiled me from moving on. It's like I stood there and watched the same scare every single night, and I never got tired of it. It was so awesome.
I mean, what a great property anyway, Texas Chainsaw. How can you go wrong with that? Our favorite house attendant from last year is the Happy Death Day house attendant that was in the party room that just flossed the entire time. Every run through, just there he was, flossing away in the corner like he was just at the parties. So give the house attendants some love because they have a tough job.
Yeah, especially sometimes you're in such a tight corner that you like in one of the houses in Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Literally, I didn't even have enough room for my feet to stand. That's how tight the spot is. So yeah, and then sometimes you get stuck in a room with a strobe light on you the entire time in your face. So sometimes it's fun. Sometimes it's can I get my next position now, please? So what is next on your list?
Okay, next, Yeti. Absolutely loved Yeti. Think that I was a little bit sad that they didn't just keep it Swamp Yeti, like to actually carry it over from the house, or like I say, Sasquatch. We would call it a Sasquatch, or like give it that mountainy kind of vibe. But the fact that it was the cold house of the year really set it apart from the other original houses to me. And I know people are obsessed with graveyard games, but in my opinion, I feel like the scares in Yeti were a little bit stronger. There are a couple from above scares in Yeti. You're not going to see them coming, and they're really, really good. So
that's kind of scares that we don't see too often in Horror Nights, and I hope we'd like to see more of those.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think a lot of times, especially for veterans, you can kind of tell what's a boo hole and what's not a boo hole.
So,
okay, next house ranking list.
Okay,
Us. And it's not that Us was bad. It's just that everything else was so good. Yeah. So it was like really hard to rank it high. Like I said, we love the movie Us. We really super anticipated it. We're going to be the tethered for Halloween. Like, we're really excited about just the property in general. But everything else was just so outstanding. It was just so outstanding. And I think that there's a couple maybe dead spaces in us that they could have oomphed up a little bit more. There's some great moments in that house. The bunny rabbit scene and the final fight scene are absolutely outstanding. But then there's a couple slow spots, so it kind of fell for us.
I feel like they could have themed out the food a little more this year too, like rabbit stew or something. I don't know.
I mean, probably. We did eat a good bit of the food. We ate the s'mores fries. We ate pizza fries. One night we ate at the Starcourt Mall, and we did the street corn. That was like the sleeper snack pick this year. Everybody's loving those pizza fries, but let me tell you, go get the corn on a stick from the Starcourt Mall. It's awesome. And we ate the Imperial Panda from the Starcourt Mall one night too. So I think we hit about all of the HHN foods. And we ate the HHN specialty sandwich at the Bread Box, and we had the Halloween Horror Night specialty drinks at Swizzle Lounge and Cabana. So we hit as much specialty food and beverage as possible this year. So
apparently I hit the s'mores fries at the wrong time or something, because I just thought they were just meh.
Oh, the s'mores fries are delicious. I think they're better than the regular pizza fries. I'm not real big on sausage and like a lot of meat toppings though. I wish they would have a veggie pizza fries option. Universal, get on that. I would love to see one with like some mushrooms and some olives. That would be really good.
Last year I think it was the first year they had that, and it was like, I see the picture's got pepperoni on it. Can I get it with just cheese? Oh, we don't serve it with just cheese. I'm like, what? That seems silly.
Are they pre-made? They come out and they're so hot. So,
I was just told that I can't get it without the pepperoni. I'm like, why?
Don't get the s'mores fries though, thinking it's gonna be fries, because it's not. It's dessert. It is straight up dessert. It's very sweet, but that's why I liked it.
And grab some napkins and maybe some wet naps. So this it was really sticky for me.
True. Yeah, they're not skimping on the marshmallows. I think sometimes pizza fries doesn't hit enough cheese, but they're definitely not skimping on the s'mores fries for sure.
Between the marshmallows and the melted chocolate, you're gonna have a little bit of a mess.
It's a tasty mess, though. Yeah. Okay, next for us, and our bottom 3 anticipated and our bottom 3 house ranking, they say the same. HHN fans don't hate us, but we put Graveyard Games near the bottom. We rank Graveyard Games kind of lower, and like I say, honestly, it was kind of too complex. Like, it's really creepy. It's definitely probably tied with House of a Thousand Corpses for the scariest house as far as just like general creep factor and scariness are. I will say that probably it's the most disturbing house because it has a lot of the theme of it is kind of dead children, which is disturbing. Everybody's fine with that though, but let's not talk about that dog again, because God forbid we kill the dog, but we got 300 dead kids in the other house and everybody's okay with that. So I mean, we enjoyed it because we had done the back work for it, but we could hear the people around us in the line coming out going, well, what was that? What was that? Why is that thing glowing? Like, wasn't that one kid creepy? Like, so I think maybe it's a little too much. Graveyard Games is, I think. And then bottom 2 for us, they did switch. For me anyway, I don't think Brian switched. I think he likes Depths of Fear better than Nightingales. I rank Nightingales higher because honestly, the Nightingales this time are freaky. They are so much scarier than they were in Nightingale's Blood Prey. This time they're much scarier in Nightingale's Blood Pit. They have like a bird beak thing to them that is absolutely terrifying. Nightingales was another one that was featured in Scare Actor Dining as well, so we were able to get really up close and personal with a Nightingale scare actor, and I don't know, I don't like birds. They give me the creeps. I ranked Depths of Fear at the bottom, kind of because the dog does make me sad now, but also because like the fish people just aren't that scary. The costumes are so big that you can really see them ahead of time, so it's really hard to get a great scare out of the mouth brooder costumes because they're humongous, so you can see it coming from a million miles away. I know you liked it better though. I know you, after we came out of there today, you were like, oh, Depths of Fear, you were like pumped about it, so.
I don't think there was any bad houses. So
really
you've got to rank them 1 through 10, but really that's 1 through 10 way up here, not 1 through 10 like this. So.
Agree.
Yeah. I walked through a few of them. I was like, eh. One of the downsides about going through preview is you go through so many houses so fast. It's like I always made fun of people who said this, but I actually was walking through a house. I was like, oh, no, wait, which house is this?
I think that there's a couple too maybe that do have similar scenes. Like there's a graveyard scene in Universal Monsters that's very similar to the entry graveyard scene in Graveyard Games. There is kind of a vibe in Nightingales that kind of also has that throwback vibe to several houses they've done before. So I think that there are some that do kind of run together. But I personally think that this is the strongest lineup they've had. If I was going to like if I would say, oh, you're coming, like, oh, you think you can only get 5 or 6 houses done, like my recommendation to you would be buy express or get a second night. Like, don't think that you're going to get out of here and only get 5 or 6 houses done and feel good about it, because you're going to miss a lot, especially if you can't hit especially the top 4 or 5, really like the top 7, So,
and I've said it several times already in this, that definitely go to that house before it gets crazy, because the beginning of the night, so far, it was just like, it's been amazing to be able to just walk right on. There it is. Of course, longtime Hornets fans will love the Bill and Ted phone booth outside, which is unexpected. It's like, oh, okay. I don't know if that has anything to do with the fact that it's right next to the Bill and Ted Theater, which is really Fear Factor. I call it Bill and Ted Theater. But it's a nice little extra touch.
They wouldn't confirm or deny it for us, but when she also said that, we got winked at, so I'm pretty sure that's a confirm. Do we want to talk about the shows? Do we want to talk about Scare Zones? What do you want to do first, Scare Zones or shows?
Well, I never saw the Academy Villains, but do love that Lagoon show, Monsters and Mayhem. I was, first time I was like, okay, wow, that was amazing. The voice does get a little annoying, the glitchy voice. Yeah, it's like, I could have gone without that. But other than that, it's amazing.
One recommendation that I have, if you're going to the Lagoon show, is get there a little early, because there's about a 5 or 7 minute preview music loop that happens, and they play Neverending Story and Bobby Brown's On Our Own, one of my favorite songs ever from the Ghostbusters 2 soundtrack, and Hungry Like the Wolf, and a lot of 80s callback stuff. And the way that they have done the scene cuts, it's set up like a VHS tape almost, where it has the rewind and the play screen and everything. Yeah, it does have tracking on it. So I think that's amazing. And if that doesn't come back next year, I'll be really disappointed.
Yeah. And we're kind of guessing there might be a Christmas version, but we don't know. But if they've, we'll see. I'm not excited about that, but I don't think this is the only year they're going to, especially with 30 coming up. This is not going to be the only Lagoon show, but they did add a few lasers just for this show, which is pretty cool.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's really cool. We did do Academy of Villains. We did Academy of Villains last year too, and I will say that we tell people a lot of times too, oh, if you're going to skip something, skip Academy of Villains. Academy of Villains this year is better than Academy of Villains last year, though.
Oh, that's a low bar.
Part of that, to me, though, the music choice is right up our alley. It's The Beautiful People. It's Master of Puppets. It's right in a really good 80s, 90s metal, hard rock, really strong stuff. And there is a contortionist in there. Just thinking about he can jump rope with no rope. It's really, really gross to watch, but kind of like car wreck where you can't not watch it. So he's definitely the standout of the show. So I recommend Academy of Villains if you have the time. If you're going to do multiple nights, or you have Express, or if you just need to sit down for 20 minutes, Academy of Villains is a really good way to do that, because you can kind of take a breather. But I think this year's show's a lot better than last year's.
And speaking of Academy of Villains, if you are thinking about hitting the back of the park, pay attention to the Academy of Villains show times, because once the show ends and everyone exits, the House of the Thousand Corpses queue will go up very quickly.
The dump into there is kind of intense. Well, because it feeds like directly into that, yeah. So.
Because one night I was like, "Oh, House of Thousand Corpses, not too bad on the time." And I went from the front of the park to the back of the park. As I was heading towards it, I saw the exit. I'm like, "Oh, this is not going to end well." And it went up from like 5 to like 30 or 40 or something like that, just instantly. I'm like, great.
I don't think we ever saw House of a Thousand Corpses over 45 or 50 minutes, though. I mean, I would wait 50 minutes for it all day long. Yeah. All day long.
It easily could go to 100 or more for how awesome that house is. And now Scare Zones.
Hellbilly Deluxe. It's the best scare zone. Yeah. Just the general vibe of the place, and it's everything you want it to be. And even if you're not like a big metal fan, like you've heard Dragula before, you've heard Living Dead Girl before. My favorite song on Hellbilly Deluxe is Demonoid Phenomenon, and they killed that one. Spook Show Baby. Like there's so many really, really, really great songs on that album. And every single one of them is on there. They don't play them in chronological order, though, which is frustrating for me. They're like not in the right order in the thing, because it's, but it is on a loop. We sat in there a pretty good time. The scare actor and scare actress that are doing the Living Dead Girl set, if you have the opportunity to watch their full scene, they are going hard. They are absolutely perfect. The guy especially is perfectly cast, absolutely amazing scare actor, and like honestly, like that could have been a standalone show. I would watch 20 minutes of the Living Dead Girl show if they wanted to like expand on that universe. I think would be really cool.
There's a area right before the entrance, or right by the entrance they have a whole bunch of picnic tables. One night I just sat there in one of those seats, on those picnic tables, and just watched the Scare Zone for a while. Just the scare actors, and also I just loved the lights moving through the fog, the plumes and stuff. It was pretty cool.
We did the same thing, and there's a drink bar area right when you come into the thing. There's tons of benches. All of that San Francisco area has a lot of seating anyway because of Richter Burger and all the other stuff going on during the day there. So there's a lot of good like sit and kind of chill areas. And we can't not talk about the robot, and we can't not talk about Dragula, because the robot is like, he's the MVP of the whole event, man. He is so awesome.
That was so cool when it was like, they actually did bring a custom built Dragula for the Scare Zone, and that was cool enough. It's also a photo op.
Yeah, you can get your photo made in the thing. It really, it doesn't run, but it has smoke that comes out of it. It has the noises, and the backdrop from it is that neon washed out backdrop that's from the music videos. So if you want to recreate that, or have a little Dragula pinup shoot, or whatever you want to do there, I mean, it's the perfect place. That's not the only good photo op in there, though. The Throne photo op is really super good. Lot of really good stuff. I mean, we'll talk about this one in a minute, but other than Vanity Ball, that's like, those two are the best.
And I would say go to the Hellbilly Deluxe somewhat early if you can for before sunset, so it get a little lighter. Although it's going to be tough because you're running to houses.
Right. True. Yeah, those sunset hours that's your prime house time right there. So that's why you got to come multiple days. If anybody's thinking like, oh, I'm just going to pop down to Orlando and do one day at HHN, like, ain't gonna be enough. We have slowly expanded our trip every year, where like first it was 1 day, and then it was 3 days, and now we're at a week, and now I'm like, how do I move down and become a chainsaw girl? Like, that's where I'm at in life. So
Brian, not this Brian, but the other Brian and I, who's probably sitting there like, am I going to be able to say anything during this show today? We drove up and drove back in the same night, and after that I never again, because I left the Hornets at like 1 or 2 a.m. and then had a 3.5 hour drive, and we were lucky that we didn't run off the road because I was falling asleep. So don't recommend that.
No, that's tough. We get a room on property every year. I mean, and that's the way to do it. And also, too, if you're over the age of 21, there's a lot of excellent alcohol opportunities. And don't drive drunk. Take public transport. We've got a great bus system, water taxis, all of that here. And it's fun to play and just do it safely. So stay on property, and that's how you're going to get the most bang for your buck. Okay, so after Hellbilly Deluxe, and I would inch this second, but like barely, Vanity Ball.
It's tough to choose between these two. They're awesome for different reasons.
Vanity Ball, and we walked through Vanity Ball first and then walked back through it again and got the same cast. So on the second night, I said, we're going to sit in Vanity Ball until they cast change, because there are two completely different sets of costume scare actors. It's not like in a house where you have the same, where you have the same character, but two different people. There's two completely different sets of characters for Vanity Ball. And I'm not a real big fan of eyeball stuff, and I'm not a real big fan of like mutilated stuff, and that's like basically all it is, but it's done in such a way that like gets you hype about it. You're like, yeah, pull the guy's eyeball out. Like,
I think it's the music. The music pumps you up.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I think that the scare actors in there, even if it wasn't that hype of music, those scare actors are going so hard. There are so many. Both of the MCs are great. I know you really like the girl. I think the guys maybe like a little bit better.
It's $49.50.
Yeah, I think they're both really good. There's a couple really outstanding ones. There's one girl that has a cape made out of like intestinal material. There's one girl that has a chest plate cut out so you can see her heart beating inside of the chest plate of the costume. There's a great guy that's in like a big blue caftan that has like a decapitated head that he swings around. He's outstanding. And just the whole vibe of the area is really, really good. I know Chucky was Scare Zone of the Year last year, which I have opinions on that. We won't talk about last year much. But
it felt like a really cool zone to sit and just watch for a while, but it got repetitive so fast.
Vanity Ball is a perfect fit for Hollywood. Hollywood, that whole area in general where it's so large, is it the largest scares? No, Zombieland's maybe like a little bit larger. They have so much space to work with there. I feel like Chucky didn't utilize it as much. Vanity Ball is working every inch. Those people are going to work in that scare zone. And it makes you smile like but in a creepy way. And I really dig that. So...
And I love how big the MCs come up with different stuff all the time. Yeah. Like I said before, my favorite thing that I've heard them say so far was, "You're beautiful just the way you are, but you can be better." Just awesome.
The girl last night told me that I had beautiful eyes and she would like to have them. So, I
see.
Right.
Okay, now next is...
I know what my bottom one is, but okay, my 1 and 2 are like really close, and then there's a little gap, and then my 3 and 4 are really close. So 3 for me, probably Anarcade. Yeah. Probably Anarcade. I really like the music. They're bumping a remix of the Tetris theme song in there. Like, how cool is that? I will say this, if you like to go and I like to take a lot of photos, and obviously can't take photos in the houses, so I like to find good photo ops in the scare zones. It is extremely difficult to take good photos in Anarcade just because of the way the lighting is set. Tied, Zombieland. Yeah. We didn't watch Zombieland, or he had already seen it, but I didn't watch Zombieland until our prep. We prep for HHN every year where we go through and watch all the IPs. So this year was the first time I had seen Zombieland, and the movie to me was kind of meh. I mean, it's not the scariest movie of all time. I think Emma Stone is really great in that movie, but the rest of it, I mean, it's not the greatest. horror movie of all time. I have not seen the new one though that just came out, Zombieland Double Tap, which I hear is actually better than the first one, so that makes me want to go see it. But there's a lot of really good opportunities. I love Zombie Kill of the Week, I think is really good. The Zombie Bill Murray in there, like how could they not have Zombie Bill Murray? Which is right. Which is weird because that means Bill Murray's in a house and in a scare zone. So I don't know how he's doing double duty there. But yeah, those two are really close for me too. Like I say, 1 and 2 are really close, and then there's a gap, and then 3 or 4 are really close, and then there's a gap. And bottom for me is Vikings.
Which is sad because that's a really cool area. I always like the Central Park with the trees and you know the light coming through. But yeah, it's just like, they definitely pumped up the grossest factor in some of that stuff.
Yeah, for sure. The Blood Eagle or like whatever the one like main flayed open guy. Yeah, Blood Angel. Ugh, I don't know. That thing's really gross. One reason that I don't like it is because it's a traffic bottleneck. So it can be very difficult to navigate through there, and because of the way that the park is laid out, you have to traverse that way several times. If you're going from the front of the park to the back of the park, like that's basically your main route anyway. Do want to give a shout out to the evil Groot in the Vikings. He is the best scare actor. I think he knows it too because people are lining up to take photos with him. And like I know his name is not really Evil Groot, but everybody walking through the thing goes, "Oh, there's Groot!" Like Evil Groot, there he is.
Yeah, like you're saying that if you wanted to bypass an arcade, there's a sidewalk all along the way, and most of them are like that. But there's a sidewalk that starts off and then it just stops. Sometimes you might be able to cut through Central Park, which you couldn't do last year for reasons I don't even understand. It's a good way to get around. Now, obviously, if people are waiting for the nighttime lagoon show, you might not be able to get through but at least sometimes you have a way through if you're not just wanting to go through it. But it's short, so I guess it's not that bad.
I miss the pumpkin trees too. I know I've said that in chat like 100 times. Anybody that's chatted on live stream before with me too knows that I really love those pumpkin trees. Yep. And guys, there's never going to be a better scare zone there than Trick or Treat. Yeah. Trick or Treat's like one of the best scare zones they've ever had, in my opinion, and it fit that space so perfectly. This to me feels like they kind of like they had Vikings and then they had this area and they kind of like had to shoehorn it in maybe a little bit. Also, too, the music in there is like a lot of grunting. I don't know how to say it. It's like I don't listen to like a lot of Viking music personally. I really don't even know what Viking music is. I guess it's grunting and drums because that's all that's in there. But the music is kind of like grating to a certain extent. Evil Groot. Yeah.
All right, cool. So I have a feeling the pumpkins aren't there every year, but I guess they happen to be 2 years in a row. Mm-hmm. We'll see. Maybe next year they'll all return for 30.
That would be cool if they brought Trick or Treat back. They probably won't. But
well, at least the pumpkins. I don't know. The scare zone, who knows what they'll do, but they might put the pumpkins back in the tree. And of course, that scare zone had the giant pumpkin with a huge flame.
I feel like the bottleneck scare zone usually was where an arcade is because they would put the Icon scare zone was there or like that face-off scare zone that was there. So people would want to like, oh, maybe I'm wrong then. But they would put stuff there where like people would want to stop and take a lot of photos of. But where an arcade is like chainsaw people this year, nobody's stopping through except for me trying to futilely take pictures of laser beams. So I feel like that having the free flow at the open end of the park is probably better, and having the bottleneck at Vikings is, I mean, it's a better use of space for sure.
I kind of feel like they shouldn't have a scare zone in that area anyway, just because that's the main place that people walk through, but they still do. So, anything else do you want to say about the event?
I kind of like Evil Groot.
All right, well, thanks for sharing your opinion with that. And also, we hopefully won't have another problem before we get to this, but really quickly, we finally got to see the Stranger Things set here in Cabana Bay, which was pretty cool. Got some video of that I'll put in, or I'll put in a video. You'll see it somewhere. So,
I think it's a cool add-on. I love to see them bring stuff out to the resorts. It's not 100% why we booked at Cabana Bay, but we definitely were excited when we saw that it was going to be at Cabana Bay because we had already booked our room here. So like, oh, bonus, we're going to get Stranger Things here too. I will say that you will miss it if you're not looking for it. There's a little like hint of it going up the stairway, which you'll see in Dave's video, but you've got to like hunt it to find it. It's not like right when you walk in the lobby or anything, but honestly, like I kind of like that. It kind of makes it special. So it's an actual set from the house last year too, so that's a nice touch.
And Scoops Ahoy.
right. Can't forget that. Even though I'm totally jealous that Hollywood got the actual ice cream Scoops Ahoy, but Orlando couldn't get that. We got Imperial Panda instead, which is like a blurb in the food court at Starcourt Mall, but maybe we'll get Scoops Ahoy next year for Stranger Things 4.
We didn't get this Slimer hot dog either.
No. And honestly, the biggest missed opportunity in this entire event was there was no Ecto Cooler cocktail. We want our Ecto Cooler cocktail. The only Ecto Cooler is one hidden Ecto Cooler in the tribute store. Maybe next year.
And the tribute store, I think, is just amazing this year. I've said it's house quality theming.
Oh, if you want to do photo ops, the tribute store is like the best place to do them. Yeah. The Ghostbusters room's amazing. The Stranger Things room's amazing. And the third room is like a Universal Monsters mashup room, and it's really good. Yeah. I am a big fan of the custom ink horror shirts. I didn't get one this year. I didn't find like the perfect design that like really that I was like absolutely obsessed with. They're a little bit more expensive, but I feel like the quality of those shirts is really super good. So, and that tribute store is the only place that you can get them. They're not like the generic logo merchandise is available in multiple places throughout the park. But if you want something specialty, you have to go to the tribute store. So it's worth the visit for sure. One other thing that I want to plug is if you go to the Palace Arcade, you can get the specialty tokens for the year, which I think a lot of people don't know that because we walked in there and the place was dead, and I just went and fed a $5 bill on the machine just to get the tokens off of it. So they put a coin out every year if you collect them, and it has the logo and the year on the back and stuff. So that's a really nice touch.
I know Palace Arcade is the name of the arcade that's already there in New York. That doesn't have any tie into Stranger Things, does it?
No, that's the same arcade.
Oh, yeah. Okay, because it just happens to also be called Palace Arcade the rest of the year. I guess it's just a coincidence.
Synergy.
And was that from the beginning of the show, or is that?
The arcade came into play really heavily in the second season of the show Stranger Things. That is where the boys meet Max for the first time. So she gives them a run for their money on a couple of the machines.
So I wonder if they named it after the arcade in New York, knowing that they're going to have the scare zone.
Oh, maybe.